Welcome to Bardstown, Kentucky, the bourbon capital of the world. More than a dozen distilleries are just within 16 miles of downtown Bardstown, and it all comes alive during National Bourbon Week this June. This is your all-access pass to National Bourbon Week. We are coming to you from the Magnolia Room here on the historic, beautiful property of my old Kentucky home, the oldest home here in Kentucky. It's Kentucky's home. It's America's home. It's a place that is rich in heritage and pride and deep Kentucky roots. The perfect place to talk about something we care a lot about here in Kentucky, which is bourbon. I'm going to take you inside National Bourbon Week, and the woman that knows everything about it, all the ins and outs, is Stacy Phelps. She's the director of tourism here. Whoo, here we go again, Stacy. Second year that you have made this a week-long adventure into bourbonism. What kind of sparked that original idea for it, and even how has it changed since last year?
It's so exciting to be able to do it for another year. We're the bourbon capital of the world, so why not celebrate for a week-long celebration instead of just National Bourbon Day? We have so much here to offer in Bardstown, not just our distilleries, but the rolling hills. And as you're driving into Bardstown, you see all the rick houses. So it's just, as soon as you start pulling in, you start to experience what Bardstown is all about.
You all are the bourbon capital of the world, and that's just not a name you all have given yourself.
That's right.
It is like a for real designation. Like, how did that even come about, and why is it the bourbon capital of the world?
Well, we have more concentrated bourbon in our rick houses than we do people. So there is more bourbon aging in our rick houses than we have people here in Nelson County. The most concentrated amount of bourbon in a small area than anywhere else in the world. So we definitely own up to that name for sure.
It's what, 98% of the world's bourbon comes from Kentucky?
That's correct.
I feel like a really big percentage comes from right here
in Nelson County.
In Nelson County.
Yes.
Well, even it's like, if you think, I feel totally country now when I say, as the crow flies, from downtown Bardstown, as the crow flies, you probably have in 16 square miles, the top distilleries in the world.
Yes, just from our downtown. If you ever come to our visitor center, we have a compass in front, and it has all the distilleries, and it points you in the direction of where they are. But I mean, we have your big name, your Heaven Hill Distillery, Maker's Mark, James B. Beam, Preservation, Lux Row, Log Still. I mean, we could just keep going on and on. There's so many distilleries right here in this area within 15 minutes of our court square.
Of the names you just mentioned, they all have locations all around the world.
Yes.
But they've never left Bardstown, Kentucky. They still consider Bardstown, Kentucky home base. Why do you think that is?
I think it's our culture here, our Southern hospitality. It's so easy when people come here, they always want to come back. The people here make Bardstown and Nelson County what it is, and I think it's just that Southern hospitality that they feel when they're here, that there's no other place like us.
It's also the most beautiful small town in America, too.
Most beautiful small town in America, and we were also the merriest Main Street by the Today Show last Christmas. Yeah, so there's just so many aspects to Bardstown and Nelson County that I just think makes us so unique and puts us above everybody else.
One of the coolest things about National Bourbon Week is these behind-the-scenes distillery experiences. I mean, it is one thing, I think, to go and visit these distilleries, to have these exclusive experiences, I think is what sets this week apart.
Yes.
So let's begin with a favorite. Jim Beam, Fred and Freddie Noe are the 6th and 7th generation master distillers.
Yes.
And they're not only doing something at the distillery, but you can go to their home for an event. Tell me about that.
This is the one I'm so excited about. This one's new this year. It's going to be a pig roast, a luau pig roast in Fred and Freddie's backyard. So how often can you say that you spent the evening with Fred and Freddie in their backyard roasting a pig?
Bucket list experience.
Exactly.
Right there.
Yeah, and I think that is another thing that sets us apart, is that we offer experiences where you can meet the people that actually make the bourbon, like the legends of bourbon, people that, they look up to and they want to meet. They're like the rock stars of bourbon. I still get a little, excited when you see Fred and Freddie know, like, they're such legends, and to get to spend the night or the evening with them in their backyard is going to be really, really cool.
And it's a home located right in the heart of Bardstown where they both still live.
Yes.
We're testament to being like a small town where people love to live here and do business here. But it's a home that is like legendary, right? Like it's been in the family for generation after generation. The founders lived there.
When I was a kid, like it was always a thing. You would ride by their house and you'd see a tour bus in the front yard, and it was Hank Williams Jr.'s tour bus, and you always knew he was there visiting Booker at that time. And I just remember that, like as a kid, you're like, oh my gosh, there's like Hank Williams Jr.'s, semi and his tour bus sitting there just visiting, probably drinking some really good Jim Beam products.
Can you imagine the stories?
I would love to know some of them.
And for them, that's just a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Right? That's like no big deal.
Life.
It's normal life. You can have, but if you come by on a Monday for the pig roast, you may be able to get some of those like cool stories too.
Yeah. It's going to be so cool. I'm really, really excited about that one.
Just down the road is where Jim Beam is located. The distillery, they have the kitchen table, which is a really cool farm to table event with the outpost that's there, where you can kind of do tastings and learn all about the family and their brand. They're also having kind of one of their signature supper club events that you can attend that week.
Yeah, the supper club series will be also held during National Bourbon Week. They have it throughout the year, so if you can't make it for National Bourbon Week, you can check it out throughout their year. They always have some really cool events out there.
That is on the property of the kitchen table, so you get.
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
So I love this, that kind of the big thing in bourbon has been, how do we pair it? And they'll pair everything perfectly. Mm-hmm. You'll never want to eat dinner the same way again.
Never. Mm-mm. I mean, bourbon has to be included somewhere.
Next up is take us to Lux Row Distillery. What do they have planned?
So they have a master distiller dinner with John Rimpey. He is the master distiller of Lux Row. So it's a very intimate evening, less than probably 30 people. It's not a big event. It's just kind of intimate. You get to sit, and John will talk about, some of their products, and you do some tastings and have a fabulous dinner.
From there, we go to Preservation Distillery. They're having a vintage experience, teaming up with kind of the biggest known person in the world of tastings, food, and bourbon.
Yes, so they have a couple events they're going to do. They're going to do the country ham and bourbon with Steve Coombs. And then they'll have their vintage connoisseur throughout the day, throughout the week. Every day that week, they'll have that also. So if you're familiar with Preservation, her vintage collection is out of this world.
Like for people that are not familiar, what is the vintage collection?
Old Saint Nick is one of her really popular products. So I can't wait to see what they bring out.
When they do these events, can you also, because I know people will follow this too, will there be like special releases or opportunities to purchase on property? Can you do that?
Yeah, there were always there, each distillery usually releases something monthly anyway, so you can come here any time of the year and get some special releases. Just have to kind of follow their website, but there will be some really good bottles to purchase this year.
I feel like when word gets out about that, the lines, the people that like show up,
people spend the night. Like, it blows my mind sometimes to see the amount of people that come here just to buy. Well, I mean, it's the world's best bourbon here.
Some of these places they don't do tours, so to have an event on property is a really big deal. One of those is Barton 1792.
Yes. Iconic brand, been around for a very long time. So we're excited that they'll have something special in the Brandy on the Penthouse during the week. So you'll get to spend the morning or afternoon with Ross, who is their master distiller. So not your normal, you can't just walk in there and do a tasting, but you can come and spend the day with us and taste with Ross and taste some 1792.
Heaven Hill is a big one that's gone through so many renovations, and they have a beautiful restaurant on site, a beautiful kind of immersive experience where you can bottle your own. What events do they have there on site?
So they have the tailgating event out there at Heaven Hill, so it'll kind of coincide with Father's Day. That's the first time they've done this one, so we're super excited. They just filled their first barrel in the New Springs Distillery, so that is opening soon here in Bardstown. So, since the fire, they haven't bottled here in Bardstown, so we're super excited to be getting that back here in Nelson County for sure.
Maker's Mark, always a favorite on the Bourbon Trail. They have they're hosting kind of the newest event.
They'll be at the Penthouse too. A lot of the events, the smaller, intimate events, will be held at the Penthouse. It's a small area. You get, to mingle with other bourbon lovers, influencers, podcasters, and then also spend some time with the Maker's Mark team.
Which is, I think, to have those conversations. What do people always? I don't think people realize that when you visit Bardstown and you visit any of the distilleries, you can have a conversation with the master distiller. That's just
it's normal here.
normal.
You can walk into a distillery at any given time and they just may be walking around. So I feel like that sets us apart. That's not the norm to walk into a distillery and see Fred, Freddie, John, like any of them. It's just not something that happens all the time. But here in Bardstown, it happens almost daily.
Those are just some of the distillery events that you have all week long. The newest thing that you have is this bourbon mashup, which, when you think bourbon now, and we talked about some of the pairings and the food, you're really bringing together the biggest chefs to complement the biggest brands.
Exactly. That's a new event for us. I know Sam's going to be on here in a little bit to talk about it, but this is the first year. It's part of the Bourbon Capital Alliance. So he is hosting that event. There'll be really good turnout. We're going to get a lot of really great media coverage on that event, and you're going to get to mingle, same thing, with the master distillers, the rock stars.
If somebody is visiting for the very first time, National Bourbon Week, where do you suggest that they begin, and just to get completely immersed in not only the distillery experiences, but the culture of Bardstown, Kentucky?
I say the Oscar Getz Museum of Whiskey History is a really good place to start. Learn about what we looked like prior to Prohibition and what we looked like after Prohibition. There was a decline in the distilleries and we lost some, and then we built it back up to where it is now. You can see artifacts. There's so much in that museum. You can learn all about bourbon. You can learn about Bardstown and how we became the bourbon capital of the world there. And of course, our Main Street. I mean, we're the most beautiful small town in America. Walk down our Main Street, all, locally owned businesses. You're not going to have your chain restaurants or shops. It's all locally owned, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful town.
And plenty of places where you can grab a bourbon or two.
You can grab bourbon. We have some bourbon bars down there. We have the Talbot Tavern, the oldest bourbon bar in the world. Jesse James was a frequent visitor there. Shot a hole in the wall, drank too much bourbon.
It happens.
I mean, he thought birds were flying at him. It was just a mural, but, those bullet holes still stand there, and also his gun is on display there also. Super cool place.
Just down the street, I just found like a new place where not only can you buy super unique collections of bourbon from, commercially what you see every day to very unique brands, but then sit at the bar, have a drink. That's kind of common here, is just to kind of sit, relax, and
just take it all in.
in.
You can do a lot of samplings. Evergreen Liquors downtown. Just an example, walk in, you can sit at their bar and just pick some pours, or hit up Liam Ash, the cocktail emporium, and have a super exclusive cocktail that they make up. There's just so many different things in our downtown. We now have Chicken Cock Distillery, who has a tasting room, amazing cocktails. So there's just so many things. You'll definitely have a good time.
Chicken Cock is located right across from the Talbot Tavern. Wonderful location, right in the town square. Are they kind of new to the city, and kind of what has, the name really grabs your attention, right?
Yes.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
The name grabs your attention. Like, what have they offered the whole scene, and what tourists are really loving about visiting there?
It was definitely an addition to our downtown to actually have a distillery on site, like in our downtown, tasting room for them. Amazing, really good bourbon, and I say that about everybody here, but we do really have the best bourbon in the world. It was definitely an addition to our downtown. They have really good cocktails. You can get different kinds of pours. They have some of their older products that you can taste too. So, and they're really good at making some really cool cocktails for sure.
Super cool and modern.
Yeah.
Well, downtown really takes center stage to kind of cap off the week. Tell me about the music concert. Has been in its 22nd year.
22nd year.
Back in the day when you just had a day, this was always kind of the way to celebrate National Bourbon Day.
Yes.
How are you making it new and different, and kind of a big celebration of the whole week?
So this year there will be tastings downtown. We also had that last year, but we've expanded on that. We now have 8 distilleries that will be doing tastings downtown from 12 o'clock to 4 o'clock. Free. Come to our downtown, walk around, do some shopping, eat, grab some bourbon, have a couple of tastings. We will also have a kid zone. All of this is brought to you by Bardstown Main Street, which is an amazing program we have here. They, beautify and keep our downtown historic and preserved. It's just beautiful. But you can come that day, spend the day, have some bourbon tastings. There will be a kids zone from 12 to 4 also. We've added a cigar lounge downtown. So if you're a cigar lover, smoke a cigar, have some bourbon, and then after 4 o'clock we'll start like the part of the street concert. So always a huge draw for not only our locals but also our tourists coming in.
You mentioned just grab a glass of bourbon, grab that to-go cup, and walk around and enjoy downtown Bardstown. Literally, you can do that. How can you do that here?
You can. So part of the entertainment district that the Bardstown Main Street program and the Bourbon Capital Alliance that kicked off last year during National Bourbon Week. So if you go into a restaurant, or it'll be marked on the door which ones offer that, but almost all of our downtown businesses do. They will pour it in a cup for you, and you can walk around and just have a really good time.
You guys really, you're all a lot like Mardi Gras in a way, right?
Yeah.
The Bourbon Street, you're the original Bourbon Street.
I think so. I think that's what we should go with.
You're the OG Bourbon Street.
Yeah, I like the OG. We're the OG.
This is one of the biggest summer events that you have, National Bourbon Week. And kind of on the other end with the Kentucky Bourbon Festival in the fall. With those events, are you seeing in general just more international tourists coming to visit Bardstown, Kentucky? I mean, it just must blow your mind in tourism that you all are really on the world stage.
Yeah, it used to be that it was like your surrounding states, your drive markets, but now, we're seeing people from all over the world. We attend a lot of travel shows and hit the international market, and we will continue to do that, but we have seen a huge increase in international travelers here. They love bourbon.
And we love to have them here. We love to get them out off of Main Street to where we are here on the grounds of my old Kentucky home.
Yeah.
People know that song, when they hear it at the Kentucky Derby, My Old Kentucky Home, written here on the property by Stephen Foster. What do you hope people enjoy as part of National Bourbon Week right here on this property?
Well, there's just so much here. We have the Civil War Museum has, one of the top Civil War museums in the country. They have more artifacts than anywhere else. So there's things here that people don't realize. So once they get here, we like to introduce them to not only bourbon, but also our beautiful Main Street and some of our attractions like My Old Kentucky Home. If you've ever watched the Kentucky Derby, like you said, that's what you're going to hear, and that home is right here in Bardstown that you can visit.
Just as we were setting up, you can hear on the property, there's speakers throughout the property where you hear that song, playing all the time. All day long. Are you a lifelong resident of Bardstown, Kentucky?
Here. Yes.
What made you want to kind of get into the industry that you're in? Because, you have the jewel of our state right here. And to be able to promote it in the way that you get to, it must be kind of a pinch me moment as a resident here promoting our great city.
It's so exciting. I say it all the time. It's the best job you could ever have in the world. We're in the bourbon capital of the world. I grew up here, so I seen what it was like when I was younger until, what it is today. And it's just, sometimes I just want to, cry because it's just such a beautiful town, and that we get to represent it every single day. We have, so much to offer to everybody.
And it keeps growing every year. We may be talking about a couple weeks next year. It may not be National Bourbon Week. It could be National Bourbon Month.
I don't know if we can handle that, but ask Sam that question when he gets on and see what he says. But no, we love it here. We love to be able to offer things like that for people to come. Obviously, it's a huge, economic impact for us to be able to have a whole week-long celebration instead of just a day.
All right. And speaking of economics, I don't feel like the bourbon tariffs are hurting things here. What do you hear from folks here in town about what that's doing, or things like looking up?
As of right now, we haven't seen any kind of impact. The people that love your Elijah Craig or, your Heaven Hill or any of your distilleries, they're still coming.
All right. Where should we go for tickets? I want to make sure, because I'm thinking a lot of those tickets are going fast.
Yes, so nationalbourbonweek.com, and it will have a schedule of events, and then you can purchase your tickets. It'll take you straight to the websites that you need to go to purchase them.
And as far as like an insider tip, which ones will go the quickest that you need to get your hands on right away?
I mean, I think the most exciting one, like I've said, is the luau. Like, I'm
Luau.
so excited for that one. I think that one is going to be huge. I think, last year they all sold out. So hopefully we do it again this year. We've got some really, really amazing experiences for
It's going to
people.
be a week to remember. All
For
right,
sure.
Stacey, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
All right, don't go far because coming up, we are going to take you inside behind the scenes of one of the newest events right here at National Bourbon Week. One of the cool things about National Bourbon Week is going beyond the glass and learning a little bit more about bourbon. And a group that's at the center of that and leading the education front is the Bourbon Capital Alliance. I'm joined by Sam Lacey. He is the executive director, and he'll be leading the poor, leading the class, leading the education of it.
All the above.
What a job you have, by the way.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I can't complain when I wake up every morning. So as you said, Claudia, and thank you for coming back to the Bourbon Capital of the World. I'm the executive director of the Bourbon Capital Alliance. And at our core, we are a nonprofit here in Bardstown that serves to build the comprehensive bourbon experience in and around Bardstown on behalf of our 9 partner distilleries and local community.
You know, people love to say, I'm going to go on distillery tours. I'm going to learn all about bourbon. I'm going to sample this. You all are really at the heart of learning about it. Kind of take us inside the academy and what you teach year round.
Yeah, the Bourbon Capital Academy is a consumer experience that we have built. We put the focus on Bardstown and those 9 partner distilleries that I mentioned previously. We're going to teach you about distilling, but just as much so about Bardstown, our history, why Bardstown is indeed the bourbon capital of the world. We call ourselves that, but we're going to lay out the evidence in the Bourbon Capital Academy why indeed we can back up that claim.
People love to drink bourbon, but sometimes they're like, I don't really know what I'm looking for or what I'm tasting.
Mm-hmm.
Do you teach something as basic of when you drink it, you smell it first,
Yes.
or you look for explain all that, because I
Yeah.
think people sometimes can feel so intimidated by that process. How do you break it down and make bourbon approachable?
Well, we want to take the guesswork out of bourbon, and it doesn't need to be a scary drink or anything. Bourbon is infinitely approachable, and so when you talk about nosing and tasting, we do teach that in the Bourbon Capital Academy. You always start by nosing your glass, mouth open, kind of breathing in through, getting all of that vapor on your tongue, and then you take one sip, kind of swish that around. We call that the Kentucky Chew. I believe that term was popularized by Booker No of James B. Beam Distilling Company. And then you swallow that, and then you go back for your second sip, which is really, it's going to take that second sip, a little bit of the heat will be off from that first one, and you really can taste more of those flavors, that oak, that vanilla, that caramel, that makes bourbon the best drink in the absolute world.
And then I bet you layer on top of that how the aging process
Yes.
really changes the taste of that. Can you taste a bourbon that's maybe a little bit older? Can you notice that what tastes different about it?
Absolutely. So a younger bourbon, 2, 3, 4 years old, you're going to get more of that sweetness, more of that corn. It's going to be less refined. Typically these days, distilleries are putting stuff in bottles starting around 5, 6 years old and on up to 8, 10, 12. When you get older, when you hit that double-digit mark, you're going to get more of that wood, a little bit more of that tannin, kind of that drying effect. So you get more of that oak influence, and that's just natural. It's spent more time in the barrel, gone through more of those cycles, and will pull out more of those tannic notes and certainly that oak. So, my sweet spot for a bourbon is 8 to 9 years old. There are a lot of people that prefer even younger, 6 and a little bit more boisterous bourbon, I would say. And then you've got those folks that love a good 15-year-old that's super oaky and woody.
I'm curious, how did you get in this business? What did you love about bourbon that led you to this line of work?
I'll be honest, I kind of lucked into it. I grew up here in Bardstown, the bourbon capital of the world. Left to go to college and pursue a career in Atlanta for several years and moved back in 2017. And I actually started working at Visit Bardstown at the Tourism Commission. And I was running their social media program and marketing initiatives. And I was approached in 2019 to run this organization, then the Bourbon Capital Community Alliance, on a part-time basis, maintain my 40 hours a week at tourism, but find some time just to keep this organization going. And in 2019, we had taken, 2018 was the very first National Bourbon Day celebration. It was like an hour celebration on the lawn of Spalding Hall. In 2019, under...
Was it just a toast?
It pretty much was.
National Bourbon Day.
We had some
Cheers.
master distillers down there, and we put some bottles out there. We took some pictures and toasted to National Bourbon Day because nobody was attempting to claim National Bourbon Day. It is June 14 each year. So we saw an opportunity. In 2019, when I headed up the celebration, we immediately upgraded to 3 full days of celebration. And from that point on, just continued to build National Bourbon Day into this grandiose series of events. Beginning last year, 2024, we finally saw the need to take that step and upgrade to National Bourbon Week. And headlined by the Bardstown Collection last year, we supported, the Bourbon Capital Alliance supported with distillery events throughout the week. I ran into people in groups from all over the country in downtown Bardstown here for National Bourbon Week. And this year we're super excited to add one more day. So we are a full-on 7 days, Monday to Sunday, series of experiences, 22nd annual street concert, Saturday evening. All 9 of my Bourbon Capital Alliance partner distilleries are pitching in with ticketed events, brunches, evening events, the supper series at various distilleries. And after Kentucky Bourbon Festival weekend, which has rightfully earned that is the top weekend to be in Bardstown for bourbon. National Bourbon Week is number 2, and we're really proud of that.
But kind of key and fundamental to National Bourbon Week are 9 distilleries. What are those?
So our 9 Bourbon Capital Alliance partner distilleries by name, and in no particular order. That's Preservation Distillery, James B. Beam Distilling Company, Log Still Distillery, Barton 1792, Lux Row Distillers, Heaven Hill, Bardstown Bourbon Company, Maker's Mark, and Old Steelhouse Distillery.
Big partners, and of course you have sponsors that have made this year possible as well.
We do, yeah, and they have been a multi-year sponsor of ours, and certainly want to thank Busick Construction, based here in Bardstown. When you drive into Bardstown, you see rick houses and distilleries everywhere. Busick Construction has built most of those, so we always appreciate their support at this time each year.
I never get tired of that scene when you drive in and you see all those
pretty
brick
cool.
houses. It is. It's
Yep.
like you're here. You're here in the bourbon capital of the world.
Yep.
I'm curious about the date in particular.
Mm-hmm.
So the celebration of National Bourbon Day started several years ago. June 14th being kind of a key day. Is there something special about bourbon, the history of bourbonism that happened on that particular day as to why that was designated National Bourbon Day?
So the rumor is, unsubstantiated, that was the very first time, June 14 in the 1789, that Elijah Craig, which is a brand now owned by Heaven Hill, first distilled whiskey. So June 14, 1789, that is why now June 14 each year is known as National Bourbon Day.
See, there's always a story
Always.
connected. And I think that's what draws a lot of people. And do you find that too? Bourbonism is a thing. We want to hear
Yes.
the stories behind it.
Yes.
Why is that such a key part of the story in the drink?
You know, it's a good question. I mean, the history behind bourbon is so all-encompassing. And so much of Bardstown and Kentucky and Virginia before it was Kentucky was built on bourbon. And so much infrastructure was built around bourbon and bourbon around infrastructure. So very quick history lesson here in Kentucky and in and around Bardstown. So many of our distilleries popped up back in the 1700s because of waterways. they needed a way to be able to quickly put barrels or kegs or other containers of bourbon on a wooden boat and send them down the river down to New Orleans. And so Bourbon Street in New Orleans has ties back to bourbon here in Kentucky. And so for consumers, those distilleries that have incredible history, you think about like Maker's Mark, and you think about Heaven Hill going back to 1935, certainly Barton, many of ours. Part of the product, part of the sell is that history, and consumers cannot get enough of it. It's very cool how much true bourbon history exists here in and around the bourbon capital of the world.
So the answer to why Bardstown is truly location.
Yeah, exactly. And Dixie Hibbs, our former mayor and KDA Hall of Famer, in our Bourbon Capital Academy course, we have about a 5-minute clip of her. I sat down with Dixie when we were building this course, and we filmed her just speaking off the cuff for an hour and a half about bourbon history and why Bardstown's the bourbon capital of the world. And that audio alone, is just so full of incredible history. And really what we need to do is put that online somewhere, because people would love to hear that straight from the source. But yeah, bourbon history here built around waterways, and then eventually when trains were invented and railroads, you saw even more distilleries pop up right along railways.
And there had to be something too about doing business here that was appealing. That's like, oh, come here. You're going to be treated right?
Yeah.
This is a good industry. This is a good place to do it. Or people would have left by now.
So a lot of settlers came from Kentucky. Before it was Kentucky, was Virginia, and had a lot of Irish settlers and folks that came from overseas. What they knew how to do was grow corn, which is the main ingredient. 51% corn makes up a bourbon. And then many of them knew how to distill. And so when they, as they moved westward, they found Bardstown and Nelson County to be a fantastic place to settle. Naturally, what they did is what they knew, and began growing corn. When you have a lot of corn, distill it, all of a sudden put it in a barrel. Whoever figured out how to put it in a barrel, there are lots of mythology around that. But a year or so later, when they put it in a barrel for the first time, it came out sweeter, had some color. All of a sudden, bourbon was born.
Can you even say what your favorite bourbon is? Or
no, I cannot.
You cannot.
No, I cannot. That's a very quick answer. Nope.
You have to say all 9. All nine of the partner distilleries.
Everything from all 9 of them. Anything in and around Bardstown, Kentucky, the bourbon capital of the world.
There you go. You mentioned the Bardstown collection. I know you guys are taking a break this year. What is that, and why is it significant?
That's a fantastic program, and I believe it was started 2021, and Visit Bardstown began that program with, I believe, 5 partner distilleries that year. And that was an strategic effort, to truly brand the bourbon capital of the world and the Bardstown collection, to leverage the brand power that exists here, which does not exist anywhere else in the country. Our distilleries here saw the need to come together, work together, collaborate, and put out 5 products that year. I believe it was 6 the following year and 7 last year. All branded the same. The only thing that's different on each of those bottles is the single distillery logo. And so when you talk about a traffic driver, economic impact back to Bardstown, it is huge. And really, really looking forward to bringing that back next year during National Bourbon Week 2026.
And will distilleries look for the most special thing they have,
Yes.
for lack of a better
Yes.
description? Yeah, this is special. Go in the back, go in the kitchen,
Yes.
and get this. And that is the bourbon collection that they present on behalf of Heaven Hill or Maker's Mark.
Correct. Yeah.
That has to be like a collector item of sorts.
It is. And they sell out like that. We have people that come in from all over the country seeking these bottles. And yes, the distilleries do their part in pulling some of their absolute best juice and holding that back for future years. So They do their part there, and I remember 2 years ago driving past Heaven Hill at, I was just checking in on things at 6 in the morning, and there were 300 people in line outside, just waiting for that bottle drop. So it's really cool. I credit Visit Bardstown with really driving that program and turning that into a true kind of worldwide phenomenon.
A big part of the events during National Bourbon Week, every distillery, probably, I'd say almost all of them, have something related to education.
Mm-hmm.
What are those educational components, and why did you all see a need to kind of add that into the week? And did the consumer drive that they want to learn more?
Consumer sentiment over the past several years has driven that. And our bourbon consumers these days are more and more educated. But so many of these bourbon connoisseurs and aficionados cannot get enough education. We have multiple Bourbon Capital Guild members, our Bourbon Society that the Alliance oversees, that have done the same tour at a single distillery multiple times. I mean, they just cannot get enough of that that one single nugget that they didn't know before, and they really want to be educated. So we are doing on Saturday morning a special Bourbon Capital Academy class that we will end with a very special pour or two for our consumers. We've still got 5 or 6 seats left there. And then throughout the week, our distilleries are honing in on education. Up in the Brindiamo Penthouse, which is a space that we oversee in conjunction with Kentucky Bourbon Festival, but also multiple distillery events on site at their distilleries. So I credit our partner distilleries with really building some incredible educational opportunities for our consumers.
You're also hosting kind of the signature new event of the week with this bourbon mashup. I feel like a lot of what people love are these pairings, right? Like,
yes.
How do I find the right bourbon to go with a ham or a derby breakfast or to pair with a food? So that's like so hot right now. How are you all celebrating that during National Bourbon?
So the Bourbon Capital Mashup is a brand new event, and that will take place Friday evening at a brand new event space in downtown Bardstown called Bespoke and Bond. Absolutely stunning event space. And the second location of Neat Bourbon Bar, which has won worldwide awards over in Louisville, their second location is now in downtown Bardstown in the front of that building. So what we're doing, we're bringing together my 9 partner distilleries. We are pairing them either with their internal culinary team, or for 5 of them, pairing them with local chefs or bakeries to construct a bite of food for our ticketed guests that works well with one of their pours. So our distilleries will be there pouring some of their absolute best stuff. I've asked them to bring the good stuff, and then they will work with.
Don't bring your bad stuff. Bring
your
good stuff.
It's all good.
It's all good.
Bring your best stuff is what I should say. And
don't bring your mediocre stuff.
Yeah, no, don't do that. Bring the 18 year, bring the 20 year, bring
double digits.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's not start at anything single digit. No, but that evening, I'm really excited about how this is turning out. All of our distilleries are on board. We are looking to give them the opportunity, and I believe we'll be able to do this, for them to sell bottles that evening as well, which will be very
for the lines.
Correct. Yeah. So that evening, I would like to think that we'll have our ticketed guests, and we're selling a couple hundred tickets. Our ticketed guests will have access to very special pours, but then also, ideally, the capability to buy some of those bottles.
Love it. All right, tickets still available for that event?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Get them, though. They're going to go fast.
We kicked off last Monday and sold 40 tickets that very first day. So we're 20% out, and I saw some more come through yesterday. So yes, if you want certainly VIP tickets, which are highly limited, I believe we have 25 left right now. Then you need to jump on nationalbourbonweek.com and grab those tickets straight away.
How is this event, or any of the events that are taking place during National Bourbon Week, how do you think they appeal to the person that maybe doesn't know a lot about bourbon, but they're curious? I feel like this is such an inviting industry, such an inviting town. what can people enjoy, and why do you think that more and more people that don't know anything about it are at least cracking the door open to explore more?
I would invite those folks to take a look at the Saturday schedule in particular. And what Randy Mauser in Bardstown Main Street has put together is a full-on day downtown, including stuff for folks of all ages. And if someone is new to bourbon and doesn't necessarily want to pay for a tour or tasting, we're going to have 8 of our partner distilleries downtown from 12 to 4. Giving out free samples. So I would encourage our consumers that may be new to bourbon, just head downtown on Saturday and ask our distilleries. What our distilleries want more than anything is to build a new bourbon consumer, and they would love to talk you through some of their products. And if you're looking for something on the sweeter side, they're going to have something for you. If you'd like to try something bold and high proof right off the bat, which I wouldn't recommend for a newbie, but they will have something down there for you as well. So take a look at Saturday. Our academy class is really kind of introductory as well. So we're going to teach people, again, kind of low-level bourbon, distilling. The Bourbon Capital Academy course we're offering on Saturday and then throughout the year is frankly more tailored to newbies as well. So would encourage people to take a look at that.
All right, Sam, thank you so much.
To Nelson County, where bourbon isn't just made, it's handed down. From father to son, mother to daughter, barrel to barrel, the spirit lives through family and tradition. Here's to the generations who built it, the families who keep it, and the memories made around every pour. In Nelson County, bourbon is more than just a drink, it's a legacy. Cheers to that.
Love it.
Cheers.
Enjoy from one of our partner distilleries. Love that toast. I need to remember that. Hey, tickets still available, but they're going to go fast.
NationalBourbonWeek.com.
NationalBourbonWeek.com. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Cheers.
you. Cheers.
Thank you so much for joining us for this edition of the Bluegrass Life. So if today's episode got you curious, or maybe even you're craving a visit to Bardstown, Kentucky, we would love to see you here for National Bourbon Week. That's coming up June 9th through the 15th. For the complete schedule of events, just go to nationalbourbonweek.com. And to plan your trip to Bardstown, go to visitbardstown.com. Until then, here's to good company, great stories, and the best of Kentucky.